So my first question would be how significant is Pakistan's airspace for Indian international routes, especially westbound flights?
Yeah, westbound flights are mostly affected because of the close proximity of the international border. The long haul flights, especially towards Europe and the east coast of America, USA. So those flights are mostly affected because, firstly, they are high. The payload is very high. So long haul flights carry a lot of fuel, and they're mostly more than 80% full. So because of the heavy aircraft, the aircraft is unable to climb at a very short distance. So they have to avoid terrain and these restricted and prohibited areas. So there are two ways to avoid: either go north of Kashmir through Central Asia, or go south from Ahmedabad towards the coast of Oman and then onwards, because the passage in between is closed now. Now, to clear the mountains, you need to be light. So that is a difficult task. The only option left is the southern route via Ahmedabad, and that increases the flying time uh, because of the longer route. Fuel is the biggest penalty, about 20 to 25% increase in the fuel consumption, or the requirement increases. For example, a Delhi London flight, typically 8.5 hours, will now take 10 to 11 hours. Mumbai to Dubai flight, a 3 hours flight, will not be much affected because it goes from the south. But any departures from north, say Jaipur, Delhi, Lucknow, etc., will have to go towards Mumbai first and then route towards the Middle East, then to the destination. Uh, all the European flights, say Frankfurt or Paris, 7, 8 hours, will now the travel time will increase to 9.5 hours. So, besides the financial hit, the time of the passengers, basically the flying time will increase, causing inconvenience to the passengers. The eastern bound flights are not affected towards Southeast Asia and towards the west coast of America because they have the Pacific route. They fly close to Japan and then onwards. So that route is not much affected. Uh, Typically, it is only the European routes which are more affected.
Sure, sir. Right. Thank you. So another question is, will the situation have a noticeable impact on airfares and passengers' experience in the short term as well as long term?
Well, airfares are decided by the airlines because there will be a significant increase in the fuel uplift. So, on an average, 20 to 25% increase for a long haul flight, and for a medium 3 to 4 hours flight, about 10 to 15%. So, how do the airlines plan to share the costs? Will they want to charge it to the passengers or partly to the passengers? So, that needs to be seen. And now the regulation of fares will be important because the ticket prices may go high if it stays on for the long term. If it is a short period of time, like the last time it happened, there were significant losses for the airlines in terms of the fuel penalties. But then airlines will have to think of innovative ways of finding a solution to this problem for the long term. So they'll have to think of new routes, building new routes towards from the north over Kashmir and fly Tajikistan in Central Asia to reach Europe. They can use technology, artificial intelligence for better fuel consumption, for predictive maintenance. So there are a lot of options available. So we'll have to deploy each and every possible option available. So uh, the separation between the aircrafts could be reduced because they need to maintain a higher altitude for lower fuel consumption. So we have to use technologies like ADS-B and radar so that more and more aircrafts occupy higher levels and the separation between them is reduced, but at the same time, safety is not compromised. So this is a situation wherein we have to use all our brains and all the options available in terms of technology, which is there available, but for some reason has not been used. Uh, but then to find a permanent solution to this problem, it has to be done.
Certainly, sir. Sir, another concern is if this closure continues, like what are the long-term implications the Indian aviation sector is going to face? Will there be a setback? Will the aviation industry get a big hit? What are the implications that are going to stay for us?
Well, airlines typically the profit margins are very slim, a few cents per air seat miles per kilometer. So it depends on the efficiency of the airline. When the margins are so slim, any fuel price increase totally wipes out the profits. Similarly, any increase in the fuel requirement, because fuel is a major cost, so that also basically wipes out the profits. So fuel, if the fuel is a concern, bigger concern, then we have to find alternates to reduce fuel consumption, use modern aircrafts, the 350s or the 787s, and phase out the older ones. Use artificial intelligence technology and improve the maintenance systems. ATC systems have to be improved. We have to share the airspace between defense and civil. So all these factors have to be catered for. Otherwise, in the long term, it will not be viable for the airlines, and survival will be affected. And every time the government cannot come in and bail out, so they have to find a solution, a collaborative method for a long-term solution. Because the fuel price increase you cannot sustain for long. It is a problem, but it has to be dealt with in a more innovative way, so that the other side also feels that whatever measures they have taken, which is against the conventions, the Chicago Convention, wherein it is very clearly written in the Article 9, that the airspace above a nation is their sovereign territory, but they cannot discriminate between the airlines. If they want to close an airspace, they can close an airspace because of emergency or any eventuality, but they cannot single out one particular registration or airlines or country. So that is kind of a discriminatory thing, which the UN must look into.
Of this closure on the Indian aviation sector?
Well, it's not going to have much effect because earlier also during the Afghanistan war, the airspace was closed. So Indian carriers going to Europe and America from northern part of India, they will not be affected because they are already avoiding Pakistan and Afghanistan airspace and going over Russia and Ukraine airspace. As far as Indian carriers going out of Mumbai or the southern part of India, they will definitely be affected, and there will be a detour of avoiding the airspace and taking a detour and going over Iran. That will take about half an hour to 45 minutes diversion as far as the flights going from southern part of India. As far as flights going to the Middle East, they will definitely be affected because you have to cross Karachi mainly to Saudi Arabia, and the other parts of the Middle East. So definitely Indian carriers will be affected, and if the tension does not calm down, then I'm sure this airspace could also be closed for international carriers, because things are not because government of India, the Prime Minister has said that they will retaliate, and this could mean anything, and therefore we have to keep our fingers crossed. And but I think the Indian aviation industry is quite resilient. We have faced certain challenges earlier. So Air India has ordered about 500 more planes, and so has Indigo. And with China cancelling the Boeing orders, I think it will be faster for these planes to come to India. And I'm sure, this will ultimately, the passenger will have to suffer, because no airline is going to shell out the money from their pocket, whatever extra flying hours are. And, the aviation turbine fuel is about 20 to 25% of the direct operating cost of any airline route. So if it is diversion of 25 minutes or 40 minutes, accordingly they will put an increase in the airfare.
Right. And approximately how many Indian flights per day are expected to be affected?
I think close to 4 to 500 flights westbound might be affected, because eastbound flights will not be affected, and I said certain flights, so maybe people will divert, or flights from Bombay will come to Delhi first and then go to Europe. So I think it's too early to say how many exactly flights will be affected, but I'm sure some flights are definitely going to be affected.
Right. And by what estimated amount are the daily and overall operational and fuel costs that you already mentioned, are they going to increase due to the airspace closure?
No, as I mentioned earlier, that it is all cost-benefit analysis, right? If the operating cost of the airline will go up, right, they will definitely increase the basic fare of the route, and whatever the variable costs are over the fixed costs, that percentage will increase, and it will depend from route to route. For example, if you're flying to Saudi Arabia, then the cost will be much more, and if you're flying to Europe, then the cost will shared on a lesser amount. So it will depend from route to route.
Right. And which countries are expected to experience the most significant impact of these flight delays?
I think right now India is going to have the impact. This is a retaliatory step that Pakistan has taken, because Pakistan is, as the whole world knows, is a terrorist state, and they harbor terrorism. And even countries like both the Russia, America, and even China for the first time has criticized the terrorist attack in Pahalgam. And I think this is high time that the world realizes that in the entire civilized world, there is one country which is a rogue state, and that is Pakistan.
Right. And when we talk about the foreign countries where these flights are going, how many countries do you think will be affected?
No, I don't think any country will be affected. It will be the airlines that will be affected, because airlines cost of operation will go up. So the new tickets that will be issued, they will have to charge a higher fare. But if some partner has bought an old ticket, the airlines will have to honor those.
Right. And considering the Pulwama attack, we have gone through something like this before. Do you think that the numbers will be something same to that, or will there be an increment to these numbers? The losses that the aviation sector saw?
Well, aviation sector it will be more or less similar, and it depends on how fast the things normalize. If this escalates into a full-fledged war, then I think we are all going to suffer. And similarly, India has also closed the airspace for Pakistan, and Pakistan also has to fly over Indian airspace. So it will affect them also, but their aviation is hardly developed compared to our aviation. And the reason probably why this attack happened is because India's side of Kashmir is really prospering. It was in the best of tourism, uh, the the on the other side of the border, the Kashmiris there were, dying of hunger, and so out of jealousy they have attacked, and this has also for the first time been condemned very strongly by the people of Jammu and Kashmir, because they are the ones who were benefiting from tourism, and they are the ones who are going to suffer, whether it is the pony driver or it's a rickshaw driver or a houseboat owner or a shikara driver or it is a scooter taxi driver. The poor people are suffering the most, and I don't understand in this civilized world how the world is able to tolerate a rogue state like Pakistan.
So, what do you think are the anticipated effects of this closure?
So whenever this closure happens, and it happened during Pulwama time also in 2019, the repercussion is the same, that the time gets longer because the flight timings, you have to go mostly towards from the Arabian Sea side. Most of the flights detour that side. So it's a longer flight, and when the longer flight happens, the fuel is more consumed, and when the consumption of fuel happens, that the flight cost goes up, and it's actually given to the customer. So the customer starts getting affected with the travel. So that is the main concern, and that is going to happen because it has happened earlier, and we've seen those huge things. When in 2019 it happened, the Indian carriers suffered around 550 crore loss. So that's a huge amount. Yeah. And this time, of course, after a couple of years, when the fuel has been going up, as always, it's going to get more and more. So it's a huge loss for the Indian carriers especially.
Right, and coming to how you said that, fuel costs will definitely be affected. What do you think is the estimated amount of like the daily and overall operational as well as fuel costs that will be affected?
I can't give you the numbers exactly because it's not there out in the open yet, and we can't calculate right now. But that's what I said, that it went up to 550 crores last time. So I'm sure seeing the rise, and could be another 20% added to it, and we have some more airlines which have come in, like Akasa has joined the bandwidth of aircrafts. So I think they'll also be affected. So everyone's going to be affected flying. That's going to happen.
Okay. And ma'am, how many Indian flights per day are expected to be affected?
See, most of the flights which are flying towards Europe, UK, Middle East are going to be affected. So that's quite a huge number. So that's going to happen.
Right. And do you think there'll be an increase in air ticket prices?
Of course.
Yeah.
That's what I said initially, that the air ticket prices are going to go up. And the moment it becomes a longer flight, the fares are going to go up for sure. And it's going to affect all the flights of Central Asia, West Asia, North America, UK, Europe, like I said. So all the flights, you'll see a surge in pricing because obviously the airlines will go through a loss, but even though they may like to increase the fares, but the loss is much more. And anyway, our industry is, though they are doing very well, but they're still struggling. So with huge losses every year on year, because according to CAPA only, we've come 17,000 crores is the loss that the airline industry suffered last year. Right. So it's going to go up.
And coming to the specifics of the aviation industry, do you think that the industry as a whole is definitely going to be affected? And how
yes, more the Indian aircrafts, because it's supposed to be for the Indian aircrafts registered in India. So I think it's more for the Indian. So it could be Air India, Indigo, SpiceJet, CASA. These are the airlines which are flying international. So they are going to be affected for sure. So it is a huge loss and a burden to the Indian economy of aviation.
Right. Anything you'd like to add, ma'am?
No, I just think that, the environment which has been created is so sad for the tourists who are visiting Jammu and Kashmir, and especially Pahalgam, that we are all suffering with it. And right now, I would just say that our neighbor country, the way it's reacting, though they should not be, they should be on the front and say that, I mean, that's what I think terrorism is all about, with countries not admitting to it, and that's how terrorism gets more and more. So I think it's time for the countries to get together to say that terrorism should be actually wiped out, because it's affecting the normal human beings. Though it's a political situation and it has a deep ripple of after effects, but I think it's a common man which should not be affected by it, and that's something which should go out very loud.